How's it going, all you beautiful people? It's your boy Wardy, and as you can see, we're back at it talking about the Amazons. And I know if you're a Mets fan like me, you have the same questions. Who are the Mets interviewing? When are they interviewing them? Who are they hiring? And when are they hiring them? Great question, and that is what we're trying to find the answers to. And I assure you, we will be following along this managerial search to an absolute T on WardyNYM, like we always do with everything Mets related. But what we have found out today over the past couple hours from our good friend Will Salmon of The Athletic, does a great job on the beat for the Mets, stated how, yes, the Mets will, of course, be making a new hire this offseason, but it will be an external hire. So what does this mean exactly for those external options led by Counsell? And what does this mean for the initial internal options and their future in the organization, like Carlos Beltran, Eric Chavez, and many more, is what we're about to deep dive. But before we go further, I have to let you all know about today's video sponsor and our great friends, that being Game Time app. Because as many of you know, I love my sports, hence the whole YouTube thing. I also love attending concerts, comedy shows, among many other various forms of entertainment each year. So in order to do that, I got to get my tickets, right? And that's where Game Time app comes into play, because if, in case you're unaware, they have been taking the ticketing space by storm the past couple years, and they are your go-to, especially for last-minute tickets. If you're like me, you hate, and I mean absolutely hate it, when you need last-minute tickets and you cannot get them, let alone you get them, but there's all these ridiculous extra charges and fees that you weren't expecting. Game Time app has you covered with the best deals imaginable every single week for all your various entertainment that you want to seek out, and they're not going to beat around the bush. They're going to give you those flat rates right up front, so you're not charging anything additional that you weren't initially expecting. So you want to check your seats as well from the seat itself. So in the app, you go through it and you want to say, hey, where am I sitting exactly while attending this baseball game or attending this concert? You can do exactly that in the Game Time app. If you want an app that's going to protect you from any type of cancellation, whether it's from a concert, comedy show, sports game, whatever it may be, Game Time app again has you covered. So for all these reasons and then some, why are you still waiting? Make sure you click the link if you haven't already in the description to download the Game Time app today for all your ticketing needs, and use my promo code WARDY, that is WARDY, for 20% off your first purchase. Again, that is promo code WARDY for WARDY off your $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to Game Time app again for sponsoring today's video. Alrighty, guys and gals, you know the drill by now, so make sure to let me know down below, how are you feeling about this news, right? Are you in favor of the Mets doing an external hire? Are you against the Mets doing this? If you're against, tell me why exactly that is. Maybe you're a big Carlos Beltran guy and you want to see him get interviewed. Maybe you're really into Eric Chavez, maybe even Joey Cora, for all I know. So whatever your thoughts are, make sure to drop them, because mine are the following. Now, we spoke not long ago on Carlos Beltran, and please make sure to check out that video if you haven't, really breaking down what is next for him in the Mets organization, because he was initially hired under Billy Epler. Billy's no longer here. He was special assistant GM. The Mets don't currently have a GM, and Beltran has all this experience, so much knowledge that he can give and share in a positive direction for any club that has the luxury of having him in their organization. So is he going to stay in the organization now? Should he potentially be seeking a different front office role? I'm not exactly sure, but we broke that down at great length in that video, so please make sure to check it out if you haven't already. Link down below as always. But Carlos Beltran, not shocked that he's really not being considered heavily for this managerial position, when you know that there's one name out there in particular that is coming from Milwaukee that would make perfect sense for the Mets in many ways, and more ways than one, not only for the connection between David Stearns and himself, that of course being in Counsell, but just the experience overall that Counsell has going to multiple playoffs during his time in Milwaukee. There's a lot to like there that we separately broke down extensively, and why Counsell pretty much feels inevitable to be the Mets' next manager, and I still stand by that belief until proven otherwise, especially now more than ever. So if you want to know everything that there is to know about Counsell, please make sure to check out that video separately. But now let's talk about why exactly is this happening. Why did the Mets really come out and essentially make this decision, even though it was initially reported through sources? Well, internally, you see the Mets' options between Beltran. Yes, there's plenty to like there, but there's also that risk with him not having any managerial experience, and also wanting someone fresh, someone new that's out of the organization. Eric Chavez, same applies. Don't get me wrong, I like Eric Chavez just as much as the next guy, not just because he was a glove there in the hot corner for the Oakland A's and other teams throughout a very extensive and impressive career, but Chavez, who had that rapport with Epler, prior to Epler, of course, now being done in the Mets organization, so it doesn't hold as much weight, but Chavez has had that experience in the coaching staff the past couple of years, did great as Mets hitting coach last year, many believe that at least, and this past last year as bench coach. Now, we don't know exactly how great he has been in that role. The Mets' lack of success could lead you to believe that you're not loving what you're getting from there and what he is exactly providing. But Chavez does have that immense amount of experience and is believed to stay, unless the Mets part with him with whatever manager that they hire next, say they want a clean house, which they very well could be doing. If he is not part with, Eric Chavez will be in the Mets organization for at least the next year under contract until proven otherwise. And there is a very solid possibility that that does not happen for Chavez, who I know is seeking a managerial position should an opening happen in the near future. And the fact that the Mets aren't even really giving him much of a say or really much of an interview from these reports lead you to believe that Chavez's time in the Mets organization too could be coming to an end over this next couple months, over this next year, however long or short it may be. And Joey Cora, Mets third base coach, he's another guy that could be on his way out with an expiring contract. Him and Wayne Kirby alike at first base. Definitely liked them during their time in Queens. I wish them the absolute best wherever they may go, but it shouldn't come as a shock if that is in fact cleaned house, the entire coaching staff with a new hire. Because when you look at the external options available, we've talked at great length about this, and that's why I told you guys to check out that video, but I'll just reiterate a little bit more. Craig Counsell not only has the pedigree of what it means to be a successful manager in MLB, was deemed by many baseball writers and reporters this year as the best manager in all the National League this year, mind you. Not only with his young, great analytical mind, but being in the game of baseball. Counsell, after retiring from the game of baseball, only was a couple years away to then getting back into the game with this time coaching, then becoming a manager. So Counsell has that extensive experience, not only as an MLB manager, but having experience in postseason, helping lead the Brewers to multiple playoff bursts for at least over the past 5 years. Very impressive what he has done. While they haven't had the playoff success that you hope for, you have to keep in mind this is a limited payroll Brewers team that balls on a budget and does great with player development, with player evaluation when they make their trades, which Stearns did a phenomenal job of recent years as their president of baseball operations over there before now coming to Queens. And you see all the things that the Brewers have done in recent years, and you see the success that they've had overall as an organization with limited payroll, and you have to wonder what that could be with a payroll larger than life itself, thanks to Steve Cohen and his New York Mets. So Counsell has always been that tippity top of the list, the guy that feels pretty much inevitable, looks like the perfect fit. And even if he isn't the perfect fit, because at the end of the day, this is a guy that grew up and has his family in Wisconsin. Maybe he doesn't want to leave the area for all we know. Maybe he's a guy that can't handle the bright lights of the Big Apple in Queens. All fair questions, but when it comes to success, resume alone, Craig Counsell's on the top of the list, and it's hard to argue otherwise. But who are other great external options, or at least potential external options that can make sense for the Mets in their search here? Well, one name that I know a lot of people have been asking me as well is Mark DeRosa. Mark DeRosa, you might love that nice smile that he's got on MLB Network with my man Anthony Recker, among others. But also D-Row, as great as he's been as a baseball analyst, he too has been dabbling in the managerial front. If I'm not mistaken, I know he's been coaching his kid and doing a great job with that. I also know that he managed Team USA for the World Baseball Classic, in which they just fell short to the star-studded Team Japan, led by the best baseball player on the planet, and Shohei Ohtani. So DeRosa was able to really start to get his feet under him and get that managerial experience, see what it's like in the WBC, and he had success in doing so, and that was awesome. But now the question is, okay, we've heard reportedly that Stearns is open and willing to consider a first-time MLB manager, but is Mark DeRosa someone that is, one, on the Mets' radar, and two, someone that they really want to consider? Now, D-Row, of course, had his extensive MLB career, has been done very well since then on TV, and also is trying to make a name for himself in the coaching front. But if you're asking for my personal opinion, at least, I think that there are still some obvious concerns with bringing in a first-time manager for a Mets team that is really trying to find their way and have not only a great compatibility between himself and Stearns leading the way, so they have no disconnect the way that I feel we saw with Epler and Buck from time to time. Not only that, but just having someone that already has a rapport is definitely appealing. As long as it's been positive, there's so many reasons to believe why a Counsell and Stearns reuniting just makes more sense than one when evaluating the Mets' future at the managerial position. But D-Row, again, he does have that little sprinkle of experience he had with Team USA. He has extensive respect around baseball as a whole, not only for being a great talking head, but of course the experience he had as a ball player himself. So you have to wonder how far can that carry him in a potential managerial position pursuit, this time with the Mets. And I don't think it's great, but he's definitely a name that at least has been thrown out there. We've heard many other names too. You know, we think of Espada, of course, from the Houston Astros. Once the Astros run is done this year, whenever that may be, was his future going to be, as he's interviewed every managerial opening imaginable, really the past at least 4 or 5 years now. He interviewed with the Mets, fell short. Could he be interviewed again? Could the Mets be dabbling with, you know, the Clay McCall, if I'm not mistaken? If I butcher his name, I apologize. First base coach, if not third base for the Dodgers, and their bench coach. You know, there are plenty of guys from more analytically minded teams that have had great success, like the Dodgers, like the Astros, like the Rays, that we can expect the Mets to dabble in and really seek out potential interviews. But if there has been one name that has been a constant right from the jump, it hasn't really changed, that is Craig Counsell. Could Craig Counsell be the Mets' next manager? There's no reason to believe otherwise right now until we start to find out those reasons. Now expect over the next week to 2 to 3 really for things to heat up on the managerial front and who the Mets end up not only interviewing but searching and ultimately hiring. So throughout these steps and whatever the next key updates are, we'll be covering them to a T in either individual videos or separate live streams, just mentioning them as topic of discussion, all the latest in Mets land this offseason. So Mets fans, whoever you're a fan of, I want to know your reactions down below again to this news that the Mets' next hire will likely be external. Are you happy or are you upset about that move? On top of that, who is someone that you expect to come in this position should it not be a Craig Counsell, for example, as he is currently leading the way by the beliefs of many, including myself? Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down below. Thank you all so much for the endless support. Stay tuned for consistent Mets content. We got a lot of content coming as the MLB playoffs are reaching its end sooner than later. And again, thank you so much for the endless support. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.